Greetings YouTube and welcome to the Blue Corner. As you can tell here, I'm going to be doing a Yu-Gi-Oh! Deck profile. It's going to be on Satellarknights as I finally finish this, and it's been what I've been playing for the better part of this format, and will probably play for the duration of the next format too. As, yeah, I've come to really like the deck. As for what it does, I don't think I really need to go into a whole bunch of detail on it, as people should know what Satellars do at this point. It's a rank 4 spam deck. It grinds, it gets advantage, and yeah, they all lose to Light Mirror, Stygian Dirge, and especially Super Poly. Side note on that is, the Shaddoll matchup isn't as bad as people would like to think, but Super Poly is by far the scariest card. Like, Wind is a problem, but I'm prepared for that. Super Poly just outright scares me. Like, there is like no direct answer to that, and I have to learn to play around that. But otherwise, though, like, the Shaddoll matchup isn't that bad. Burning Abyss is also tough. But otherwise, this pretty much craps on every other deck in the format. That's kind of how it is with the top 3 decks. Is they all crap on everything that isn't each other. Which is kind of similar to the Super Rejuvenation Ruler format, where it was just Dragon Rose spellbooks and everything else was just not as good. But there was like that one deck or two that had good matchups. Yeah, so... yeah, let's just stop babbling here and get right down to it. I'll explain a couple things along the way, but this shouldn't be like 20 minutes like my usual deck profiles, which I'm sure some of you will be happy for. Anyway, Satellar monsters are all guys that trigger when they're normal, special, or flip summoned, and the Neb searches out a Satellar other than himself, or herself. I think that's a chick. I know she's the kid of Altair and Vega. TCG Player posted an article regarding the lore of these guys, and Altair was like, I'm not even going to get into that here, but I know that Altair is like the father, and Vega's the mother, and Deneb is the child, and Altair and Vega, when you put them next to each other, they have their hands outstretched, or something like that, and they're reaching down towards Deneb. But anyway, let's get to the actual I cannot talk. Let's get to the actual effects of these guys. So we know that Deneb searches. Altair special summons a guy from the graveyard. It could be any Tellarknight, so that includes the Xyz monster. And 1700 attack is pretty decent. 3 copies of Manakali, also known as the Ukulele. He's an 1800 attack Armageddon Knight for the theme. 1800's decent. It can allow him to beat over 1700s. Tie with 18, such as Shadow Squamata and White Dragon Mark Reverse Star. Unfortunately, he does get beaten over by Beast, Pumped Up Raiden, and a Dragon, in addition to the Xyz, in addition to his fusion monsters. But he's still good for what he does. He's used to put Deneb and later on Vega into the grave, and he can also shut off your own emptiness if you need to make a play. He's also really good with your early game soul charges, as you can just dump Deneb into the grave, and then soul charge out Deneb, and then trigger Deneb, and just either float your 2 monsters if you've got a Nova, or just make an Xyz. And then the 1 copy of Vega, as I found the multiples to be a bit clumpy. Vega is good in setting up your your 3 monster rank 4 plays like Delteros and Shockmaster if you're playing in Japan, but otherwise though, it's kind of 1200 is really low. It gets beaten over by a lot of things, and if this thing gets negated, it's just the worst. And that's it. Only these guys. I'm not playing Alsham. I honestly think the card is terrible. Yeah, 1000 burn sounds nice in theory, but when you're playing a build like this with upstarts where you're trying to turbo into your Denebs, or Unacalize the side of the Denebs, you don't really want to be giving your wasting your normal summon, Call the Haunted, Vega, or Altair for 1000 burn. Just seems really lackluster when you can use those effects in order to make a rank 4 and do even more damage. I mean, I get the idea that he's really good in time, and he's effectively 2400 burn by himself if he gets a direct shot, but I just think that you can run so many better things than Alsham. Anyway, for this spells, 3 soul charge, because this is a deck that can abuse it at all facets of the game. I already talked about it during the early game with just a Deneb engrave. You can also use it during the mid to just make a Delteros or multiple Xyz, and during the late game you can bring back the Delteros, sack it off for any potential Novas, and just make some really good boards. It can also let you make some of the more unusual Xyz in the extra deck. 3 copies of Upstart and 3 copies of Duality to turbo into my Denebs, Soul Charge, Emptiness, just all my key cards. 2 copies of Typhoon for just spot removal. Emptiness is a bit of a problem with this deck, so I want to have at least an out to it. I might actually take this up to 3. 2 copies of Rhoda because everything is a warrior, and it allows me to actually tech some potential future monsters like DD Warrior Lady, Photon Thrasher, and maybe Goblinberg? Nah, that's really situated. No. Anyway, for traps, 3 copies of Breakthrough Skill. Obviously, good card is obviously good. 3 copies of Call the Haunted. Allows you to cheat with some of your guys. You can resolve Deneb twice before you get to your next turn. Or you can use it to put up a Deneb, search out a guy, and then on the following turn you can just use your normal summon and then go into an Xyz while you're dealing with a Winda. So it's one of your outs to it. 3 prisons to try and deal with said monster. I said that as Super Poly is the scariest card in that matchup, but Winda is still a bit of an issue, and Prison and Breakthrough Skill kind of deal with it. 3 copies of Nova, the card is just ridiculous. Unfortunately, it does lose out to Wiretap, but still, it pretty much shuts down a lot of things. You can even just make a Deltaros, and if they try and use Shadow Fusion, you can just shut it off, and then that's it for the turn. You can also protect some of your guys, and it allows you to push through negation like Breakthrough Skill or Veiler. If you already have one set, you can just summon the Altair. They try and negate it, you Nova it, get the Neb, then search out. Pretty good. 3 copies of Emptiness, the single best trap in the game, and one of the reasons why that I like to call this a Floodgate format, because everybody's running these. If your deck can make use of it, then your deck is probably going to be very good, because this is just so good. And in my opinion, it is a potential hit on the ban list, but I don't think Konami is going to touch this on the grounds of it'll be a very sought after card if they reprinted in Legendary Collection 5, 5D's edition, maybe as a super. I'm hoping it gets printed as a super, but yeah, like, not really much I can say about Emptiness. It's just an unfair card that lets you make unfair plays and then back it up with an unfair Floodgate. And then for the singletons, Compulse and Warning, Bottomless, Torrential, Dark Hole, Book, I think they're all very underwhelming in this format. Book is slightly better, but for what I'm using Book for, I'd rather just run a 3rd Breakthrough Skill. And Bottomless, Torrential, and Warning are just ineffective in a format where everything floats. So, no, you don't want a Torrential field of Shadow monsters or Burning Abyss monsters, and yeah, okay, Torrential kind of hurts this field, but I'll just make it again the following turn. It's kind of like why it was not good against Chaos Dragons. You wipe their board, but then they make it again the following turn. And for the Xyz monsters, I am running 2 copies of Deltaros. I have gone into the second one a couple times. He's good. Spot removal ensures that my summons can't be responded to. If I already have one in play, then that means they can't Warning or Blackhorn, Bottomless, TT, or any of the sorts, which is really good. And then when he dies, he gets you a guy out of your hand or deck, like Vega, which then gets an Altair out of your hand, which then gets a Deneb out of your graveyard, which then gets you an Altair to your hand, and then it's like, oh, you killed my 1 monster, now I have 3. 2 copies of Castell, I believe the best rank 4 in the game right now. It's honestly better than Arc, in that he handles the same things you use Arc for, but because you're putting them back into the deck, and you can hit defense position monsters, being able to just shuffle floaters back into the deck is really good, because then things like this guy don't trigger, the Shadow Fusion monsters don't trigger, whereas they do if you detach them for Arc and the Burning Abyss monsters. Plus you can book your own guys if need be, and then when you flip some of them, they get their effects off. And he can also shuffle back in Floodgates, or things like Supply Unit, which is kind of good. So yeah, I would definitely run 2 of these guys instead of maybe another Arc. I might even take my Arc out. Dweller, because it's really good. Karangorn, really good in tandem with Floodgates. Shadow Mirror, unfortunately, you can't really protect that well with this guy, but the other Floodgates like DeFi, Dimension Fusioner, and like even some of your own like monsters. Like if you don't want them to MST your emptiness, then you can just redirect MST to their own card. 2550 is also pretty decent. Omega, because I'm running lights. Emerald to shuffle back in my Altairs. Direwolf to out floodgates. Exciton because it's Exciton. Gandiva, this one warrants a little bit of talking about. The idea behind Gandiva is, much like Evil Swarm, Nightmare, and Shadows, this is a guy you can make off of your Soul Charge play, and he can stop counter Soul Charge plays because he'll just wipe out everything that gets summoned off of a Soul Charge. And against decks that need multiple special summon monsters to do things like Madolche, you can just nuke them. And what else? There is another reason why I'm running this guy too. 2100 is also pretty decent. Granted, Giant Hand's probably the better card to run, but I kind of don't have that. And I'm just making do with this guy. He is decent for what he is, but I wouldn't be surprised if I end up cutting this. Black Shepicorn, Send Off Hands, and other floater, or rather cards I don't want to pop. Rhapsody, Berserk, remove shit, pump my guys up. That effect is really important because it's how I get over Leo. Leo is a bit of a problem for this deck, but with Rhapsody, I can just beat over it with Dynamo or Delteros, whatever I need. This guy will let me swing over it. Arc, like I said before, this guy's kind of just not as good as he was before. He's still okay. And if you don't have Castells, then this is a good substitute, but I think Castell's better right now. And then one copy of Dynamo, who is good for what it does. Puts a guy to 0, beats over it when it dies, gets you a card. It's a light though, so again, it can be super polyed and they get around it that way. So, yeah. That's what I got right now. I will have to make room for Tri-Veil when the next set comes out, as Tri-Veil will be very, very, very good. And I might experiment with a couple things with this deck while waiting for the next deck to come out, as I have a couple ideas I want to try out. Like maybe trying out the Kage to Kage engine for Dark Access and then BLS Chaos Sorcerer, as those are inherent monsters so they can be dropped before your opponent plays in Vanities, which is kind of an issue. But I am liking how this is going so far, and yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed what I had for you all. I hope I explained at least some of my card choices as best as I could, and why I'm doing that, and why I don't like Alsham, because I know I'll probably get like a couple of people are asking, why aren't you playing Alsham? The burn guy is really good, the burn guy is this. General conclusion I've come to though is, he's not. He's just not good. And yeah, Nova is a 3 of. Like, this card is just good. It really is. And that's really it for the video. Stay tuned for some more Vanguard content in the next couple of days or week. BT15 is coming out, so maybe I'll grab a box of that if I can and crack it open while talking the set with you guys. Japan also made a new banlist announcement that caught my interest, and I will discuss its potential ramifications too. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this. Until next time, this is Blue Sword 99 jacking out.